Well, welcome in, fans, to a special episode of the Two Line Pass podcast. I'm Randon. Here with me, as always, is Dustin, and we have our Fanley Cup series. It's starting right now. That's right, the series where we talk to you, the fans, and what you thought about the first season here, and what made the Utah Hockey Club so special. And we are absolutely thrilled and honored to have joining us tonight the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Brandon Merrill, a.k.a. Utah Hockey Club, a.k.a. Broccoli Brandon, a.k.a. co-host of the Salty Ice Insiders. Brandon, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm not sure I'm worthy of that introduction, but it is a lot of names I've got to keep track of now. But thank you guys for having me.
More than worthy, my friend. You are one of the top fans, keeping everybody engaged and always out there talking, and you've built quite the community. For those listeners out there who don't know who you are and your story, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Talk to us about kind of your history of as being a hockey fan before the Utah Hockey Club, and kind of what led up to this inaugural season.
Yeah, so I was born in Gilbert, Arizona. Coyotes moved to town when I was 8 years old, so I was a Coyotes fan. I played street hockey, a little bit of ice hockey, nothing too serious there. But then my family moved to Utah right before the Olympics, and so didn't really keep up with my fandom. This was, 2001, end of 2001, early 2002, and it was really difficult to keep up with teams back then because we didn't have streaming, we didn't have NHL Network, it basically was impossible. So I didn't really keep up too much with it. I wouldn't say, I still loved hockey, but it wasn't like my priority sport really at all. And then, so I went to college here, then I went to my grad school out in Vermont, and then I moved back to Arizona, and first thing I did was I got season tickets to the Coyotes. 2015 to 18, basically. And that was in the Gila River Arena, so it was pre-mullet, but it was up in North Phoenix, Glendale area. So I got to see the beginning of the Keller years, the end of the Shane Doan era, and that was basically it before I moved back to Utah. So now I live in Orem, and once the team was announced, I kind of just started getting more active on Twitter with that, and realized that my personal Twitter account probably wasn't the appropriate forum for my hockey rants and chirping and whatever else I wanted to do, because I work in a nonprofit that's kind of serious, and I interact with a lot of politicians, and I don't need them seeing some of that stuff. Even if they know who I am now, at least it's separated a little bit. But it was all fun, and then I just found this big, huge Twitter community and people that wanted to get excited or get into hockey, and it was fun just kind of educating people and also bringing them together. And yeah.
Well, welcome. I think that's one of an interesting, I know we have a lot of Arizona fans that are still in Arizona, and a lot of those fans, they hate Utah and they hate the team, and they're gone. But it's interesting to hear somebody who'd lived in Arizona previously, cheered for the Coyotes, had season tickets to the Coyotes, and then came back. So, like, was your hype level just off the charts that it happened in this way?
Yeah, I was so stoked because I still followed the team after we moved back to Utah. Not as crazily as I would have wanted because I still didn't buy or have satellites, so it was just, watching clips or reading articles or whatever. But seeing how the team had drafted Josh Doan, I was really excited about that. And, some of the other young prospects with Gunther and Cooley and all of these guys that are coming up the pipeline or down the pipeline. They're in the pipeline, whatever you want to call them, however they're going to come out of there. But it was really cool to see that. And there is and still always will be, I think, a lot of Arizona fans that are mad or bitter about things. But for the most part, Twitter is not representative of how a lot of the Coyotes fans feel, in my opinion, at least. So there are quite a few that are okay. I shouldn't say, I don't know. I think it's less hateful than we see on Twitter. It's definitely an echo chamber in there. And Reddit, too, because Reddit is just the worst. But I kind of give in terms of terribleness, it's like Reddit is the worst and then Twitter. So different participants in there are sometimes the same. It definitely can be a challenge, but I think there's been a lot of great Coyotes fans that have also followed the team over and are invested in the boys and in the team. So I'm glad that's for that for sure. But yeah, there's definitely some angry ones that will never get over it.
So you mentioned how terrible Twitter is and just all of social media. and being like the man behind the Utah Hockey Club, and especially like the broccoli Brandon and the broccoli headpiece in the stands, like you've sort of turned into what I would call like a pseudo sort of local internet celebrity, where a lot of people know who you are, and like when people talk about some of the bigger, more well-known fans, a lot of them are going to point towards you. How does that feel, like, to throughout the year kind of blossomed into almost like I guess a poster boy of the Utah Hockey Club fanboy? Like every team has their famous fans.
No, it's good though. Yeah, and I actually see Utah hockey Twitter different. I feel like we're a more positive culture within Utah hockey Twitter, at least, and that's what I've tried to maintain and be. Like even at the beginning of the season, when people were upset about Ingram's performance or questioning Bear on why, on lots of things. Yeah, Randon, definitely, you were one of them. I think I don't even know if you were doing it very often on Twitter until recently, but it's okay. But, overall, I tried to do a positive spin on it or something with that, because we really don't know what's going on behind the scenes of anything. And I think once the Ingram news came out, a lot of people realized, like, really, this team is, and hockey is just different than other sports with how tight-lipped they are. I tell people all the time, if this is their first year watching hockey, wait until the Stanley Cup finals are over to see how many players are getting surgeries, because they are all, if they're in the playoffs, they're not saying anything. They're playing through that pain. They're going hard because they want that Stanley Cup. So it'll be interesting to see what happens even with some of our guys. I feel like that's gonna happen. A couple of them will pop up with something, I'm sure. Overall, that was the big thing I tried to do, was just bring people together and bring in some hockey culture, because we really didn't, like, yes, hockey exists here and has existed, and there is a small culture here. The Grizzlies have a great culture in their arena, but it doesn't necessarily translate to the NHL, and it's different types of fans. There's a lot more new fans in the Delta Center arena every game than there was old Grizzlies fans, if that makes sense. And, the big thing I would say is the positivity, at least, and getting those traditions, getting something going on there is the big thing for me. And that's, the broccoli thing just started because a random friend of mine, Ryan Reynolds, and he's at Ryfish65 on Twitter. He posted in our group chat that we have through my podcast that, hey, we need to do something to show appreciation to veggie. And so he's like, I'm buying this broccoli hat on Amazon. Who's in? And I was like, oh, absolutely. Bought it. And his gets confiscated at Delta Center by security. And I ended up sneaking mine in a little bit later. So, like, it wasn't like, I just stole his idea, basically. He'll tell anyone.
So basically, Delta Center staff is the reason why we have Broccoli Brandon instead of Broccoli Ryan.
Yeah, exactly. And I told Ryan he should have done a Radish, because then it's Radish Ryan. But, it's definitely it definitely transformed into something crazy. And it really didn't click until really the last, like, month or so, maybe 2, like maybe 6 weeks, like since Four Nations. Like, I've been wearing it since January, and like it would show me every once in a while, but I don't think like some people saw it and they would know, but not everybody, even like the arena workers or like some of the staff there or other fans would come up to me like, why are you wearing the broccoli on your head? I'm like, it's for veggie. And then they go, oh, it just would kind of click, and it just takes that little bit, because it just like doesn't, because we don't have that hockey culture. So this is kind of like a first organic thing, I would say, because then it just escalated into people throwing broccoli and veggies onto the ice. And it has just kept going, and people going all out. I think I saw someone dressed as a potato for the last game. I didn't get to them. I was trying to find them and I lost them in the crowd. But like it was crazy. People doing other vegetables too, and it was great. I loved it, and I love with that, the Twitter community definitely helped that take off, I think.
Yeah, you kind of answered one question that I was going to ask, because obviously in kind of closing out the home season, some people started throwing like broccoli onto the ice. I was going to ask if that was you, or if that was just a branch off of the Broccoli Brandon tree that's just sort of blossomed out.
Yeah, it blossomed out. It was not me. Someone posted one video on Twitter, and then another person posted and said, "Yeah, this was my idea," and I passed it around to like our row. So there was multiple people on that game, and it was awesome. I tried to arrange to get a picture with them on the last game. It just, as you may know, the last game was a little crazy, and so I just didn't make it work for me. I loved it. I loved the escalation of it. The team did too, other than Sergey, but that's, not everybody's going to love everything. That's okay. I even saw lots of people on Facebook who hated the veggies. They think that it's stupid and shows how lame we are in Utah or whatever that we're doing vegetables. And I'm like, do you even get it? Like, do you understand it? Like, there was other people I saw even on like Coyotes Twitter, and they were like, when the Coyotes come back, we need something like this. Like, and this was an anti-Utah Coyotes guy, so at least this one person was admitting like it was a cool organic thing that has started to happen, and we get to do it for the next 5 years at least. So we'll have to get some other things that we figure out after that, but right now we've got the broccoli on the ice locked down.
I think it's fun to, as we talk about like the first season in Utah Hockey Club, and we're talking about the growing of a culture. And when you first started doing the Veggie Head, like you're saying, people don't put two and two together. You've got a lot of new fans who, Karel Vejmelka is not a household name in hockey, unless you were really following the Coyotes, you probably never heard of the guy. And so it's for them to try to put that together, and then to watch it build like that is phenomenal. And you mentioned that hockey players are a different breed. So I've got to ask, is Vejmelka by default now your favorite player? Was he your favorite player? Who is Brandon's favorite player on the Utah Hockey Club, or kind of what players have stood out for you this year, even if maybe it doesn't have to be Vejmelka, just because you're now tied to his fate one way or another?
Yeah, I mean, that's partially part of it, right? I do think, though, that, I mean, he has for sure become one of my favorites. I think it's hard to choose overall your favorites, but, I came in with having seen Veggie's performance in the previous year where it was almost swapped. Like, Ingram had 6 shutouts and was posting a 9.90, 9.1 save percentage rate, and Veggie was in the 8.8. And then this year it kind of swapped, And so, I mean, I'm a big appreciator of goalies. I think that they get way too much of the blame and not enough of the glory. And so I thought that was really cool that we're starting to actually appreciate our goalies here. I thought that was kind of unique. I feel like every fandom, I mean, there are certain ones who definitely appreciate their goalies a lot, but not everyone does. And so I thought that was pretty awesome to maintain that positivity and kind of seeing, like, just because it looks like there was a bad night because he got scored on 3 or 4 times doesn't mean it was on him. Like, look at how the defense performed, look at, who was out on the ice, look at how many penalty kills we had to do, and that's just part of it. But, he definitely is one of my favorites. And then the other one he's just been so fun to watch these last few years. And part of my fandom came literally because of his last name. But I've got his dad's jersey signed hanging up in my office, Shane Doan. But Josh Doan, he's definitely my other favorite, if you will. He's fantastic. I just watching him since he's been called up. He is all over the ice. He is stealing pucks. He's lifting sticks. He is on the second to last game against the Preds, the away game, the second to last game. If he would have just had a little lift on that puck, man, that was just such a beautiful sequence. It's just age and youth, and it'll get there. But, like, man, he is going to be such a good player, and he's got such a better and all the pundits say this, like, he has a better ceiling or higher ceiling than his dad. He plays defense, and his dad did not necessarily. I mean, as much as you can when you're in that position, but he's a different kind of player. I kind of go to those two, I think. And then, I mean, there's so many. I love how much Sergey has embraced Utah. I mean, a lot of the guys have, but I feel like, just some of these little bits about every one of the players just make you love them even more.
So you've kind of touched on, I mean, we just touched on some of your favorite players, but the season is long. It's been 82 games. Do you have a favorite moment from this season? Is it just finding out originally that your Arizona Coyotes were going to be moving up here and joining you in Utah? Or do you have like a specific favorite moment that you like to look back on throughout the season?
For a game, I mean, the Canes game, I think is where it clicked for our fandom because unreal game by Veggie. They were the best team in the NHL at that point, and it was a 4-1 game with a 10-minute penalty kill at the end. Like, you could not get a fandom more excited for every save, and that's where the Veggie chants started, you know? And that's kind of where everybody was going to the games, but it just clicked for a lot of people. So for that was pretty cool. I mean, the last game for me obviously was great because I got, I don't know if you guys can see this, that broccoli hat, it's signed, because I got to meet Veggie after the final game, and he had already gave me his signed stick, which I've got here, and it says thanks for support, bro. But it was signed when he handed it to me, so like it was planned out that he was going to give it to me during warm-ups. Very well used, you can see it's even like chipping right here at the R, and lots of good scuff marks on it all over the place. So you know, I've got to figure out where I can hang this now, but just overall that full season, that last game was really great just because of the experience I got with that for just being a fan. You know, I was pretty rabid in my support of Veggie, and it was cool. And in the interviews after, he said, like, you know, he was supporting me, and I thought it would be cool to support him back. And I thought that was kind of a cool thing that, you know, that's how he decided to show that support back, and it was great. I mean, there's so many games though, but that Carolina game is for sure where it clicked, I think, for everybody.
That was an all-timer game, and I got to say, I was watching, so I was on, you know, we've got the bench side of the arena, and I was on the Nashville side, and you were on the Utah side when he was giving you the stick, and it was actually a pretty cool, like, the view of it as it's being passed to you, and I see the Veggie, and I just know kind of what's happening, and it was just really cool to experience that from my end. But as well from that, for our listeners who may not know, you're also part of the Salty Ice Insiders, which is a great podcast dedicated to Utah hockey, and you guys have one of the coolest traditions, and I want you to kind of walk us through and talk about the evolution of it throughout the season. So you do the Salty Ice Insiders meetup, which is a fan group that you all get your picture taken if you're at the game outside of Portal EE, is it?
Yeah, that's where it was this season. Yep.
Yeah, and you can see from the beginning, you know, you have 5-7 people, and then it feels like it's like 50 people at the end. Like maybe you can't even get enough people that too many people want to get in. And so talk to us about, you know, how that tradition got started and how you saw it developing throughout the season.
Yeah, you know, it definitely evolved over time. So when I first created the @Utah_hockey, and my display name at the time was Utah Hockey Club. I followed Salty Ice Insiders. I had started listening to them a little bit when the Coyotes started airing on over-the-air television here in Utah. So I got to see a few games during the season, watch that, and then I found that podcast through Twitter and people on there. So I followed them a little bit on there. But then when they switched over and they're like, hey, we're going to keep with Utah, I messaged them right away. And I was like, hey, let me know how I can help you guys. I know you don't live in Utah, but I'm happy to either introduce or promote or do whatever I can. And at the time it was Ray and Luke. And then over the summer, Luke just got busy and just couldn't continue doing the podcast. And so eventually Ray asked me to join him in doing that. But even before that, we had been put in this big group chat that they had created. And so at the beginning, it was like 25-ish people. And we started planning out meetups over the summer when the Southtown Mall was announced that it was going to be the new practice facility, and they put the banner out and all the gates up and all of that. We went and ate at the Via 313 Pizza that was right there and kind of peeked in, tried to see what we could see in that area. And then just kind of evolved where then the first game we were like, let's meet up. And a couple people had seats up near that Upper Bowl team store, and it's an easy place to find. And so we just met up there during the first intermission. We just chatted and talked. We're like, hey, let's take a picture to commemorate like the first game, home game here. Let's take a picture because that's really cool and fun. So we did. And then it just kind of was like every time, like we wanted to make sure we saw each other every game. And we were like, you know what, let's keep doing this. And so then as the group chat kept growing, more and more people found out about it. Or what we really started to do was when I joined the podcast, I started posting those photos on the podcast Twitter page, and people started seeing it more because I have a decent amount of followers, but the podcast has almost 8,000, and it just started blowing up. People would retweet it or comment, be like, "Oh, I would love to come and meet more hockey," because people want hockey friends. They don't know a lot about hockey, or they don't have a lot of friends who do like hockey, and so they want to make more hockey friends and look forward to meeting up at the games, and that's exactly how it started. And by the last game, we had SEG coming up and asking, like, "Hey, can we come and film your meetup today?" And I was like, "Well, it's your building, so yeah, you can, but feel free." So it was really cool though that they knew about it in one way or another, that they came up and asked me because they found me during the pregame, and they were like, "Hey, can we come up and film you guys doing your group picture?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. Like, that's really cool." And we had, probably close to 50 people in the last one. We had one where we had almost 60, 70 people. It was insane. So we're moving it next season. We're going to be at AA, but anybody can join. We're not going to take as many pictures next year, but I kind of wanted the first year to have every game just because it was really cool to see that evolution. But for the next season, I think we're going to do it just on some special occasions or once a month kind of thing. But mostly it was just to create that community at the arena of hockey people and being friends, not just online. And that's kind of where it evolved.
So that podcast came from covering the Coyotes when they were in Arizona, and
Yep.
then you joined when they moved to Utah. When you joined up, did you have like a history of podcasting? Had you done it before? Had you hosted like any sort of shows on the radio or anything like that? What was your experience before you got into it?
Yeah, I had, because my my day job is pretty serious. It's a law firm for families of murder victims, so we don't need to like get super into it, but for a couple years, one of my grants basically was a podcast that was like informational for other victim advocates, not just about homicide stuff, but about crime victims, resources in general. So I had done that before, but nothing sports related for sure. I'm mostly just a listener, but I had to adapt and grow on the fly there, but it's been fun.
Well, I got to say, we got some great content creators here in Utah, and it's just been a lot of fun to watch the evolution of all of that. And now, speaking of podcasting, because Dustin had been in the podcasting business before. He had a Utah sports podcast, but I had not. Right, I just knew that that it was an accessible form of medium. There was all the jokes about like, oh, you're a white guy, just go start a Twitter or whatever. Not a sports podcast, mostly the politics and stuff. But I was like, hey, I could do that too, and so we did. But I'm curious to see if you kind of had a similar as a fan of hockey and watching a team before you're a podcaster, and now as you're a content creator podcast, has that changed at all, like the way you watch the games, the way you consume the information, the news and stuff? Or do you still consider yourself kind of a fan first and then the podcast will sort itself out after the fact?
Yeah, for sure, fan first. I kind of have said it on ours, like we're a fan-driven podcast. We do just different, everybody's got, that's what I like about all the podcasts. And I have found, at least, all the podcasts for Utah hockey have been pretty friendly with each other, and I really like that. We're not mean or territorial about things exactly, but it's been good because we all do different things. We're mostly audio. I might delve into some video stuff, but I got to learn how to edit, and I'm not wanting to do that really. Mostly it's like, we look at the past games, like we do twice a week. So whatever happens before the game, recap, looking at the upcoming games, what the keys are, boom. And I always say, whenever I have a guest on that's either a journalist or somebody else, the journalists get a pass, but I always tell the fans or other guests, like, you can't pick our team to lose, like, even if you think that, because that's not cool. Like, Utah is the best team in the world podcast. You cannot say we're going to lose to the Caps or we're going to lose to the Canes. Like, you can't say it. It's taboo. Some of the journalists, I let them say it if they want to, but with our score predictions, I can't do it. Even if I truly believe it, I won't give a score prediction that isn't us winning. So fan first, and then the podcasts and the analytics within that, mostly that's just my wife doesn't have to hear me talk about it anymore because I can just talk to the podcast about it instead. So she appreciates that. But yeah, I don't mind. I love getting more deeper knowledge into hockey because I was not an analytics or statistics guy before. Just liked watching and enjoying and being like, oh, that's a good move here, that's a good move there. But now learning about, the metrics behind hockey has been pretty fun.
Now, you just mentioned there, like, that's a good move there, that's a good move here. Now we're officially, sadly, into the off season. Do you have any, like, ideal moves, ideal signings, trades that you want to see the team make?
And this is going to be controversial because I do not like Mitch Marner. And I will stand by it. Lots of people do. And it's personal. It's not on his performance. I know he's good. It's irrational. I don't care.
Just if you have a guy that you don't like, you don't want to root for him. I can understand that.
Exactly. Don't care. We need a top six center. We need a finisher. So I think those are going to be our two. If that happens to be the same person, great. I think eventually Hayton and Cooley will grow into those roles, but we need somebody who's experienced if we want to start that shot for the playoffs. So, I mentioned this when the trade deadline was coming up when we were doing, some trade talk within the podcast, that don't get emotionally attached to your favorite third or fourth liner. And don't really get emotionally attached to anybody, but especially the third or fourth liners. Those are almost always movable. But, I could see us trading even a first or second liner this off season. So I'm not really sure, as long as GMBA follows what he's going to do, whatever the plan was before, now that he's got the money and the capital behind it, I think that it is only going to help the team. So, we're going to have a few open roster spots. I think I was doing my calculations today with people I expected to be gone. And that's not saying anything negative about their performance or being players. I love all of them. We just don't know really what's going to happen and who we've got coming over and how many slots we have left. And I think we've got 3 slots that realistically can be filled. And one of them is going to be a healthy scratch or at least a rotation within that. And so you've just got to figure out who fits those roles, because we know that Tuna is going to continue that role. Liam O'Brien is going to continue that role as the healthy scratch, rotate in when it's time or appropriate for him. He knows that's his role. He said that a million times. We're not going to see a 82 game performance from him, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have a role, and he's fine with that. But we're going to need another role player like that. But the main 2 roles we need are another top 6 center and a finisher. So yeah.
So one idea that we actually tossed between the two of us on our last episode involves Liam O'Brien. I think both Randon and I believe that, like, he has a spot with this franchise, but neither one of us believe it necessarily has to be on the ice. And we tossed around the idea, like, giving him his own broadcast, kind of like the Nashcast that we have. Would you watch something like that? If they put like a broadcast that was similar to the Nashcast and it was Liam O'Brien talking about hockey, would you watch that form of the broadcast? And did you watch the Nashcast?
So, I did like Tyson Nash a bit when I was in Arizona. I watched it, but honestly, I fell in love with our broadcast crew that was there on the regular. So I did try to watch some of the Nashcast stuff after the games, but during the games I didn't, just because I love Maddie and Dom and Nick and Kim and Sarah, and I thought that they did such a good job threading the needle of educating new fans and but not being condescending to people who know hockey. And they just did such a really good job with that for me at least, I really appreciated that, and I wanted to continue watching it that way because it was good. The Nash cast was definitely a different vibe. I did watch the interviews that they had when they were on there, but it has a place potentially too. I would watch something with Liam either with Nash cast or whatever, but I also think eventually, he's got 2 more years left now that this season is over. He's got 2 more years left. I would love to see him be kind of like our Biz. I don't know if people know this. Biz started out as the arena man for the Coyotes after he was done. So Paul Bissonnette, who's on HBO or TNT Hockey Night, whatever they do there, can't remember what it's called, but Biz started out as the arena guy for the Coyotes. And I can see Tuna being that guy for sure. And I don't know if or when it would happen. It could happen at any point, but I actually think he would be at some involvement in our team in one way or another after his time playing here is done. I think everybody would love it. And I mean, everybody says it. He's a great locker room guy. He's a good guy you want to have around. He's glue, and he has his role, and he knows what his role is, and he has his place. So.
Talking about stadium hype, man, you've been to the Arizona Stadium before Mullet Arena, and now you've obviously spent a lot of time in the Delta Center. How does the experience at the Delta Center, from a fan who's had multiple NHL venue experience, how do you rate the Delta Center? Are there things that you would like to see modified, change, or things that they're just knocking out of the park with the way they run things? Because they've got, I was shocked at like the level of production, like their on ice graphics and stuff, which just got better throughout the season. Like, I did not expect that level, but I've only been to it's the Delta Center, and then I've only been to Las Vegas's arena, are the only two NHL venues I've ever been to. So how do you rate the Delta Center experience throughout the year?
It did get better and better. At the beginning, I think it was a little difficult. They were ready for basketball people, and basketball is not the same. Obviously, they learned that with how much beer was being consumed the first night, and the chug cam going crazy so much that they had to cancel it for like the next 5 games while they figured out how they can either make money from it or not offend everybody that was upset about it, which it's never going to work. It's just how it is. You know, they limit it now. I did hear a cameraman in the arena going like, oh, we've hit our chug limit for the day, so we can't show more people chugging beer. So they have a limit of how many people they showed on the cameras chugging beer. So that's interesting. It did get better and better, I would say. I think it's just that hockey culture getting into PG and the arena production team, because again, they were used to basketball. It's not the same thing. It's not ever gonna be the same thing. And so they tried to force some chants on us that weren't great, but a lot more started organically. The only one that kind of stuck around was the Let's Go Utah with 5 claps repeated 16 times a game, and man, everybody was so sick of it. But organically, more and more have started, and I think it'll continue to get there, for sure, especially when we get just more now, because we've been told the arena production teams are visiting when there is away games. They were visiting these other arenas to try to get ideas for next season. So I'm excited to see what happens next season.
So as the arena has grown, as the team has grown, the production has grown, some of us have to grow and change and adapt along with them. I think there's a very good chance next year that we are no longer the Utah Hockey Club. So what becomes of the Utah Hockey Club if we're no longer the Utah Hockey Club?
I've been told by several people I'm staying the same. I need to not change it because it is what it is. But I also want to keep around, Club is going to stay the same. That's my display name. So for those that don't know, like, I started it back in technically February, but it was with a different account that I had, and it was one that I had interacted with on it was basically for my old podcast. But it wasn't the content I wanted, so I had to start with a clean slate and follow hockey things to get hockey things in my feed. I was getting a lot of stuff with politics or crime or whatever, so I had to restart again in April, and the team didn't have social media. And so, like, my original display name was just Utah Hockey Club. And that was before they even announced the name that it was going to be Utah Hockey Club. Like, they had not given any indication of what it was going to be. I just was like, oh, Utah Hockey Club, like, that's what I'm going to do. And the team didn't get official social media until July 1st when the deal officially closed. Like, yes, it closed, April 18th or whatever, but the money didn't go through, and the ink wasn't dry until July 1st, and that's when they could officially start doing stuff. And so once that popped up, people were getting it confused because I had technically been on there longer than the team had, and so I would pop up first for a lot of people. And then so I just added that extra club, and then had to change my bio to be like, oh, I'm the club for the club, just kind of trying to, basically say that. And people would yell at me that I need to change my name, and I'm like, well, if they're changing their name next year, I'm going to stay the same, and I intend to keep that. I'm going to keep my name. If they do stay the same, maybe I'll change it to like Broccoli Brandon or something. Mostly I was just waiting out to see what the team name was, and I've decided I'm going to keep it. So a few other guys though that I know that were either like Utah Yeti or UT Yeti or whatever, like, we know we're not getting that name now, and they're wondering, oh, should I change? And everybody's like, nope, just stay the same because that's how we know you.
Now, are you officially you're Team Mammoth, or do you want it to stay Hockey Club, or what is your official
My
what is your
official
desire?
stance?
Yeah, on the team name.
I liked Mammoth. It grew on me for sure. I was fine with Yeti, and then when the final three were announced, that was the one I wanted. Mammoth really did grow on me over time, even when the Yeti thing was basically going to be happening when everybody thought it was going to happen. I actually started being like, you know what, I kind of like Mammoth more. I wish it was Mammoths, but I do like Mammoth still. Yeah, so I was that was one of my first times on the Jumbotron was with my broccoli head and holding a sign that said Mammoth or we riot. I had a few signs. One of them was given to me by a guy. He was just like passing them out and like walking around the arena with these. And an arena worker came and like took a huge stack, but he had like a few more in his back pocket, so he gave me one. And then the Jumbotron guys were coming up because they would usually pop me on once during a game because of my ridiculous broccoli hat. And so then I held up the Mammoth or we riot sign, and yeah, anyway, so I do like the Mammoth one of the choices. I honestly don't care though. Whatever it ends up being, I'll be happy with it. If it is Outlaw, if it stays Hockey Club, I'll be fine.
As long as we've got hockey in Utah, we're happy people, right?
Exactly.
That's all that matters. But well, I've got time out of serious questions before rapid fire. Dustin, do you have any further questions?
No, I think we've covered pretty much everything we wanted to. So, and we're getting kind of close to the minute mark where we usually start winding things down. So we'll just go not hockey based, but just 5. When we decided that we were going to give an award to whoever wins the Fanley Cup here. We wanted something that kind of tied everybody in together, and so what we're going to do is just 5 quick, rapid fire, just like top of your head, quick answers, easy questions, just give us the first answer that pops into your head, okay? So, we'll go. Top of their game, burger or pizza?
Pizza.
All around considered, BYU or Utah?
Utah.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yes.
Big spoon or little spoon?
Big spoon.
Okay. In these uncertain times, would you recommend investing in precious metals, or is this the time to buy stock-wide funds and buy the dip?
I'm not giving out any stock advice. I'm a lawyer. I'm not giving out any financial advice, but invest in Dr. Pepper. That's my advice. There we go.
Perfect.
Buy cans of Dr. Pepper, not the stock Dr. Pepper. Just buy Dr. Pepper. Stock it up.
Fair enough. How do you feel? Are you a Dr. Pepper purist, or are you okay with the blackberries and the strawberry flavors that they add to them?
I don't like the fruit add-on. I do like the cream soda, and you can even see. I'll move this over here real quick. I've got antique bottles. Where my oldest one is from 1937. So
is that one the old one, the old logo that has like the 10, the 3, and the
10, 2, and 4. Yeah.
Okay.
10, 2, and 4. You eat a Dr. Pepper at 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 4 o'clock. Or drink a Dr. Pepper, but
eat a Dr. Pepper's
well, it used to be drink a bite to eat. Was one of their slogans too. So yeah.
Does Dr. Pepper? I know a lot of people in the South will add like peanuts to their Coca-Cola. Does Dr. Pepper have anything like that where they toss in something to enjoy it with?
I have no idea. I know that back in the day they used to have like a hot Dr. Pepper with lemon thing. I've never tried it. I think it only works with real sugar Dr. Peppers though, so not sure.
But okay, well, go ahead, Randon.
I was going to say, when I write up the blog post, though, I'm going to say that you gave a hard answer, which means you definitely chose the precious metals. Gold is back, guys. You heard it here first. Gold is back.
Or you can invest in eggs, like my Sergey signed wooden egg. So that's a good one too. Eggs are expensive. Just invest in eggs.
Eggs are more precious.
That's going to be the tagline. The
Perfect.
tagline for this episode is breaking news. Broccoli Brandon heavily endorses buying gold at these.
Love it. I'll get a call from the financial people. I don't know. I don't work in financial law.
The FCC.
They're all jerks
Pinra,
anyway.
whatever, all of those places, yeah.
But Brandon, we
Okay,
really appreciate
well-
you coming on the cast with us. Do you have anything you want to say? Any shout outs or anything you want to leave the fans with?
You know, I think it's just great on, again, focusing on the positivity of the team. I think it's been a great first year. I've loved just being able to grow hockey in the state, getting tons of new fans who are rabid about hockey now is really awesome, and I'm just super excited to see hockey grow. So hopefully everybody continues to make it out to games next season.
Absolutely, guys. Follow him at Utah_hockey, the Utah Hockey Club. This is Brandon Merrill, Broccoli Brandon. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Brandon. We really appreciate it. And everybody, check him out on Twitter. Check out the Salty Ice Insiders podcast. And thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.